Hello, everyone. Mega Metal Gamer here, just Mega for short. And I wanted to make a discussion video when it comes to FAs. Now, between FAs, they first started getting released, announced and released in Code of the Duelist, and it was always four cards each: two monsters, two spells, two monsters, two spells, two monsters, two spells. And with the new five cards, I kind of wanted to talk to them and give my thoughts on them. Because at first, I didn't know what to think of them, but I didn't hate the idea of playing with levels, just like Fortune Ladies. So let's go through the cards one by one, and I'll give my thoughts on what I think. I've also I also have two duels that I had with Ericu Blade, which those I'm gonna put together in a separate video, which is like two very close duels that we had. So first of all, let's start with FA Sonic Meister, which is a level 4, like all the almost all the other ones. Um, I forgot to mention that I put them in order that they end up getting released. So the four first cards you see here is Code of the Duelist, etc., etc. So FA Sonic Meister, level 4, uh, Wind Machine, no attack as the base stat, and 1000 defense. But it does gain 300 attack based on its level. So base attack is 1200 right off the bat. Cannot be destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster whose original level or rank is lower than this card's level. Um, Sadly, there's no links when it comes to this, but it doesn't really matter. It pretty much means that depending on what you go against, most of the time with how often you can gain levels, chances are that this will remain on the field after a battle. Um, and they all have the effect which each time a FA or FA spell, trap, or effect is activated, you can increase this card's level by 1. So increasing more of its attack. If this card's level is 7 or higher, it can make 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. It's very easy to bring them up to at least 7 or higher with duels that I've had testing them out and everything. So gaining the 2 attacks isn't a problem, but for me, it's not the best as the 7 or higher effect. One of the best ones, in my opinion, is Hang on Mock, which again, uh, it's pretty much the same stats except defense is 1800. So it's slightly a defender, but you don't really want to use these as defense. Um, Unaffected by opponent's effects, activated effects from an opponent's monster whose original level or rank is lower. So you have battle with Meister, and you have activated effects, which I like this part. I prefer the activated effects more than battle because there's more things that can destroy you by effects than battle, technically. Again, each FA spell, trap, or effect increases level by 1. And if this ends up being a level 7 or higher, any card sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. So pretty much every card that they would like to use when it comes to banishing from the grave, none of that. Unless you go against Metaphys, then that's a problem. But this will be the card that you would like to run at 3. Mainly you want to run almost all the monsters at 3, except for a couple. I'll get to that. I'll mention a little bit of how I made the deck testing it out. But yes, this is the one that you want to have on the field um, at level 7 or higher. Now, for the first spell that I'm going to talk about, which is the first out of three field spells, which is FA Circuit Grand Prix, uh, which all the field cards work either during the main phase or battle phase, or both, as we're going to get into at one point. This one is increase the levels of all FA monsters on the field by 2 during the battle phase only. So pretty much with this, if you want to if you're going to destroy monsters by battle, uh, and you want to make sure that you have Hang on Mox uh, level 7 or higher effect, this would be the best card for that. If you're like missing uh, a level or two, then boom, he already has it. Once per turn, when a FA monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can draw one card. Obviously, you want to draw. It's a free card that you get. And if this face-up card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, not just your opponent's, this also means your own, you can add one FA card from your deck to your hand, except for this card. This effect can only be used once per turn. Um, it took me a while to realize that some of the ways this deck works is you have to destroy your own field spells. But this does actually come in handy uh, by searching. All the field spells have this search effect. And the other card, which is FA Downforce, uh, it has two effects as a quick play, but it's almost the same thing. Um, when you activate it, you target an FA monster and it gains 2 levels until the end of this turn. And during the main phase, except for the turn that this card was sent to the grave, you can banish it from the grave, target a FA monster, and it gains 2 levels. So either way, you have a card that you can play on the field or banish from the grave, and it has the same effect. This is a good effect to have, and it's actually something that has helped quite a bit in duels I've had against Blade. So when these 4 cards first came out in Code of the Duelist, it did end up getting my attention, but there wasn't enough to work with right off the bat to. Sorry about that. Um, but there wasn't enough to make a pure deck with them, obviously. So I decided to wait, and I tried testing out Vendreads at this point because Vendreads they end up getting the better cards to use in a deck. Now, when the next set came out, which I believe was Circuit Break, the 4 next cards were revealed. The first one was FA Whip Crosser, uh, which is kind of like Meister on the stats. Effect wise, though, is your opponent must pay 300 life points to activate the effect of a monster whose original level or rank is lower than this card. Not that big of a deal, but the one effect of this, for when it gains enough levels, is your opponent cannot discard or send cards from their hand to the grave to activate a card effect. That helps quite a bit with hand traps and stuff like that. This actually stops them. So this is another one of those cards that you would at least run at 3 with everyone running those kind of cards. Now the one that I wasn't a fan of at first because it's a level 6, so you'd have to sacrifice a monster for, is Turbocharger, which has the level gaining as a level 6, 1500 defense. Your opponent's monster whose original level or rank is lower than this card's level cannot target monsters for attacks except for this card. And it also has your opponent cannot target monsters except this one with the effects of monsters whose original level is lower, level or rank is lower than this card. So it's protection, which is always a good thing from other monsters, except it doesn't protect itself. And the other effect for when it's at level 7 or higher, let's see. If your FA monster battles while you control this level 7 or higher card, your opponent's monster cannot activate their effects until the end of the battle damage step. So it's an ancient gear monster to sum it up. So, but as a level 6, and with what the two next spell cards that we got, this threw a lot of people off for the fact that you would have to sacrifice a monster to get it out, which is with this deck right now not really a good thing. The second field spell that we got, which is FA Off Road Grand Prix, which increases all FA monsters level during the main phase only by 2. And you can only act, and this has 2 effects that you can choose to activate. Yeah. So it's when an FA monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand. Or if this face-up card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, you can add 1 FA card from your deck to your hand. This technically would be the weaker one of the 3. Because while there is stuff you can do during the main phase, at this point it's more you want to do stuff during the battle phase. So while it's kind of nice to have your opponent discard, although if you have Hang on Mock on the field, it's banished instead, not just sent to the grave. And obviously there's a searching effect, which is the good thing about it. It's not the best one. And then we ended up getting FA Pit Stop, which is target 1 face-up monster you control, reduce this level by 2, and if you do, draw a card equal to the number of FA Pit Stops in your graveyard, plus 1. And during the main phase, you can banish this card from your grave, except the turn it was sent there. Then target 1 FA monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Now, at first, in my opinion, the first effect I wasn't a big fan of because it lowers by 2. But then, thinking about it a little bit, even if it's lowered by 2, it technically still gains a level based on you activating this FA card. So technically you only lose 1 level. But that is still a level that could harm you a little bit depending on the level you're at. But the special summoning from the grave, that's a perfect thing if you have Turbocharger there. So that's at least 1 plus. But going against Erika Blade, testing it out, I did kind of underestimate this card. This card has actually proven quite useful. But still not quite enough to make a deck out of. But then Extreme Force or Extreme Forces came out, which revealed, again, 2 monsters, 2 spells, but went slightly in the direction I did not expect, and I think a lot of people didn't, which introduced FA Auto Navigator, which is a tuner monster. And this is one of the cards that you want to at least run at 3, for the fact that you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard by targeting an FA monster whose current level is higher than what it should be. You then special summon this card, and if you do, reduce that target's level by the difference between its current and original level. And if you do that, whatever gets reduced goes to it instead. And there's also the fact that as soon as you special summon it, you could also normal summon for the effect, but you want to special summon this. you can add one of the FA field spells from your deck to your hand, which obviously you need the field spells. And what I thought about it's like it's pretty much navigating through during the courses, which are the field spells. So I like that little tweak with it. And as this got revealed, the synchro tuner. What am I talking about? The synchro monster that we got is FA Motorhome Transport, which oh my god, this is so good. While it's a level 9 synchro, which isn't that hard to bring out with this deck. Um, it has 3,000 defense and has tech, technically a lot of attack since it's a level 9. Same thing, gains 300 attack for its level, um, which would be, if I do quick math, about 27. And each time an FA spell, trap, or effect is activated, increase it by 1. Now, based on its level, it gains 2 effects. 11 or higher cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. It can still be sent, but can't be destroyed, which is always a good thing. And when it's level 13 or higher, you can special summon you can target an FA monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Again, you can bring back Turbocharger. You can bring back Hang On Mog or just another one of your monsters that you need. You don't want to bring back Auto Navigator though because it can do that itself. So with the third set of cards, we end up getting FA City Grand Prix, which is a better field spell between the two because the gaining 2 levels works during the main phase and battle phase. So you don't have to worry about like using a specific field spell at a specific time, which is really really amazing. I love it. Um, your opponent cannot target FA monsters you control with card effects, which means it's a turbocharger, except just for card effects. But with the field spell and turbocharger on the field, there's kind of a lock where you can't really target anything except for spells and traps. So that's good. And again, it has the if this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can add a FA card from your deck to your hand, except for this card. So it has the searching, which again is very useful. And the final card that we got in that set is FA Test Run, which allows you to target an FA monster you control, change its battle position, then destroy 1 card on the field. Now, depending on what you have, you would want to target either your field spell, so you're able to search either for a field spell you need, or a, uh, or just like a monster that you need, or just one of your spells at this point. And uh, and you can also banish this card from the grave, except the turn it was sent there. They then target one face-up card you control, which at this point would be the field spell, definitely. You would have to destroy uh, that card, but you get to summon a FA monster from your deck, not grave, deck. So with this, you can banish it from the grave, pop your field spell, special summon an FA monster from your deck, let's say Turbocharger, for example, which then whatever monsters you have on the field would gain a level because you banished this card using an effect. And since we'll say you pop your field spell will activate, allowing you to search for a card, which then not only do the monsters you previously had on the field gain a level, but whatever you brought out with Test Run, which at this point the example I said was Turbocharger, he would gain a level. So there's already like a whole there's in one play technically, most of your monsters gain 2 levels, which is always like really really good. Now at this point, there would be almost enough to make a deck. Um, Although there's not a lot of things um, that I've seen with them, honestly. But recently we ended up getting 5 cards and not 4, which threw me off because I didn't expect that. Because normally with the TCG exclusives, we normally get 4, not 5. So I saw this at work, and I'm just like really, really trying to read what the cards is. And 2 of the cards really got my attention. Some of them, 2 of them also did out of how I like to joke around a little bit with the decks. No, I'm sorry, 3 of them got my attention. My mistake. So the first one that was revealed was FA Dark Dragster, which cannot be normal summon or set, but has to be special summoned first from your hand by having a level 7 or higher FA monster on the field. But no FA Dark Dragster in your monster zone. That's not a problem. You can pretty much have any of your monsters become a level 7 like instantly. So that's really not a problem at all. So again, it has the other effects where it gains a level when a specific FA thing is activated, yada yada yada. But I should also mention that this is a dark and not wind, which explains the dark direction in the name. Now, the part that everyone's going crazy about is once per turn you can target 1 card on the field, reduce this card's level by 3, and if you do, destroy that card. Sadly, it's not a quick effect, but it's still always good to have. And you're technically able to gain back the 3 levels, like, no problem. So, it's not that big of a cost. Now, the other card that that was revealed is this one, FA Dawn Dragster, which is a light. It only requires a tuner and a non-tuner for a level 7. That's perfectly fine. It gains attack based on level times 300 as per usual. This has piercing though, and once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell, trap, or effect, and this one is a quick effect, you can reduce this card's level by 2, and if you do negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy that card. 2 levels, that's not a problem at all. It has piercing, that's fine. Piercing really isn't that big of a thing these days, but they have a destruction. Well, technically, they already had a destruction, but they have a monster destruction. Well, a monster card that destroys something, and a synchro monster that negates and destroys a card, which is always a good thing. Now, for one of the cards that I did not see coming at all, FA Winners, which is an auto win. Which, in the sense that this is all racing theme, in a way it makes sense. First of all, if you control an FA monster, this card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect. Uh, when your FA monster whose level is at 5 or higher, then it's a wait is at least 5 higher than its original level. Battles an opponent's monster and inflicts battle damage to them. You can banish 1 card from your hand, field, or grave. You can only do this once per turn. You don't want to banish any card though, because that effect is mainly used for the auto win condition, which is if 3 of your FA field spells with different names are currently banished, and were all banished by this by the effect of FA winners, you win the duel. Now, while this is a random effect for FA to have, in my logic, it's pretty much because you're racing on 3 different tracks, and when you're banishing them, it's like you've conquered those tracks. So obviously, there's no other tracks after that. You've won the race. So that's why this, in my mind, is the auto win condition. Um, Not that big of a card, honestly, though. But the trap cards, they have my curiosity, especially one of them. Uh, the FA Overheat. If your opponent controls a monster, special summon one FA monster from your hand. This allows you to bring out FA Turbocharger if it's just dead in your hand. And if you do, increase its level by 3 until the end of this turn. So immediately it will gain its level 7 effect. Uh, Actually, no matter who you bring out, even if it's one of the level 4s, they gain their effects instantly. Which I just realized, which is always a good thing. If this card is in your graveyard and you control no cards in your field zone, you can banish this card from your grave, activate one FA spell, a field spell directly from your hand or graveyard. You can only use this effect of FA Overheat once per turn. I feel like if you use this card, you probably don't have a field spell in your hand to activate. So the only chance you have is to bring out the one from your grave. So I'm not sure why they have the hand effect, unless it's pretty much like, hey, I fooled you. I actually have like Grand Prix or Circuit Grand Prix in my hand, and now you're just attacking a monster that's more powerful than you. My cat's now here. I'm sorry for the meowing. So Overheat, I like the first effect, and I kind of like that it has a backup in case you need a fill spell that's in your grave. Now, FA Dead Heat. I'm sorry, my cat just wants attention. If you can hear that. FA Dead Heat is the card that I thought was a little bit more random than Winners. Not for the main effect, but for the secondary effect. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can special summon one FA monster from your deck. That at this point, this is anything except for Dark Dragster, which I think the best card to bring out for this though would be Turbocharger because it's a higher level, if it's in your deck. So that's fine. But the second effect is once per battle, if your FA monster battles an opponent's monster, before damage calculation, you can have both players roll a 6-sided die. If your result is higher, increase the level of your battling monster by 4 until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. If your result is lower, destroy your battling monster. If it's a tie, both players roll again. Now, for those that don't know me too well, I've made a luck deck, so I like dice rolling cards. But in FAs, this was a very, very random card. And for me, like, the only thing I can picture is, like, if it's, like, there's 2 racers going, like, head to head and, like, one's near the finish line. And then it's, like, you roll a die, and if you win, then it's, like, you barely pull ahead to win. But what I didn't think about, and it happened during the duel against Eric Blade, is when this effect activates, if you win, this card activated that effect, which means your FA monsters gain a level. So not only do they technically gain 4 levels from winning the die roll alone, you gain +1 for activating this. So an extra 300 on top of that. So you go from technically gaining 1200 attack to 15, which I honestly did not think about until I dueled Eric Blade. So Dead Heat went kind of like a random card to, in my opinion, a kind of decent card because it's a continuous trap that allows you to special summon a monster from your deck. And not only that, if you win a die roll, you automatically gain the level 7 effect from any of your monsters, except for Auto Navigator, which does have a level 7 effect. And not only do you gain a +1 from this effect triggering if you win, you gain a monster and you potentially destroy one of your opponent's monster. Which then, depending on the field spell you have, if you have, I think it's Grand Prix. No, not Grand Prix. Off-road Grand Prix. Yeah, off-road Grand Prix. Then your opponent would discard a card, and it's just like, wait. Oh no, actually, Circuit Grand Prix would be the better one, which you get to draw a card. So honestly, using Dead Heat in duels has changed my thought about it. But that is all the cards. Honestly, looking at the cards itself, it's nothing too big, except for Hang on Mock, Dark Dragster, and Dawn Dragster, and Motorhome Transport. The other cards are kind of like, eh. But if you take the time to sit down and play around with them, like make a deck and play with them, they're actually pretty good altogether. And I'm just gonna show off the deck that I have. Here's the deck that I have. The only difference I did was because I forgot to add a specific card against Eric Blade. I had 2 Dark Dragsters. I took one out to put Turbocharger because it's kind of easy to bring it out now. So to go over the deck a little bit, one Dark Dragster you have to have at least one, preferably maybe two, if you can take out one specific card and throw it in. Uh, at least one turbocharger. You you technically don't need it, but I at least wanted to use one, and I need to like play with it a little bit. 3 Hang on Mock because obviously it's one of the best level 4s because it's you're banishing your opponent's cards. Um, 3 FA Rip Crosser, which obviously would, as I said, stops your opponent from using hand traps and stuff. So obviously you want to do that. 3 Meisters because while I'm not big on gaining gaining the attacking twice when it comes to hitting monsters, um, it at least gives you um, more monsters that you can use, and um, 3 FA auto navigators. Obviously, you have to. One Ties of the Brethren. I tried running 2, but there's I feel like one is better to do. And the reason why I run the one is if you're on turn 1 and you have Hang on Mock, Rip Crosser, or Meister in your hand, you summon one of them, Ties of the Brethren, you automatically gain your other 2. So you have all your 3 level 4s, and then that's when you play your FA spells and you set your traps so you can quickly gain their secondary effects. Three FA test runs, uh, obviously because well, the reason you run a three obviously is your monsters gain a level from it. It allows you to destroy a card on the field, and obviously with the graveyard effects, you pop a card, you special summon, so it's a three. Um, I did put pit stop at two, but then I realized how decent it was, so I moved it to three. Same reason as test run in a way, where it's like you your monsters gain a level, even though one of your monsters would technically lose at least one, and then you can banish this card from your grave to special summon an FA monster. Why would you not want that? Two twin twisters in case I have to, in case I draw like turbocharger, or if I have an auto navigator that's kind of dead in my hand and I don't need it right away. Twin twister, discard it. I could pop one of my field spells for it to trigger, and then I can at least special summon the turbocharger later on, or the auto navigator later on. FA downforce. Obviously, you run this as at three because no matter what, your monsters are getting three levels, two from the effect and one from activating it. Even when you're banishing it from the grave, it gains two levels at least, so you want that. Um, I'm trying the one Rinners. Um, if I would have to side something out for a Dark Dragster, I would probably side this one out because it mainly depends on what I go against. Three FA City Grand Prix. Obviously, I run three of the best field spells out of the three. Two of the other twos, while they're not as great, they're still useful in their own ways. One heavy dust storm, for the fact that I can just use it during my opponent's turn, so I don't lose my battle phase. So if my opponent sets a card, I'm not a big fan of it. They end their turn, activate this, preferably popping my field spell to gain a search and destroying their face down or whatever they have. I'm running overheat at two, just in case I do end up with a monster in my hand that I need to summon. But it's mainly for the second effect in case like I need a field spell. I have this in the grave. One I Marshallan Field, just for the fact that they play with their levels. You activate this, you make them go as high as you can. Like I think it's level 9. They gain that much attack. Well, they gain attack. They gain their secondary effects. And if you have Dark Dragster when this is on the field, or Dawn Dragster, then you can use their secondary effects, no problem. And I do run two Dead Heat. Uh, I did have this. I did run this at two originally, just so I could like test it out. And two, I say it's perfect if you want to use it. If you want to use that at one, that's fine. But the fact that you can special summon a monster from your deck when you get attacked directly, that's why I'd say at least two is fine. And if you want to try to use the dice roll, again, that's fine. Extra deck, I just like having three copies of each, even though technically, depending how things go, you can only bring out one because of the extra monster zone. But if these are in your graveyard by any chance, F8 test run can special summon one to your main monster zone. Um, Pit stop can special summon it from the grave as well. So you can potentially get more than one, which is really good. And I have two Great Fly. And the reason why I have this is if you look at all the attributes from Turbocharger all the way to Auto Navigator, they're all wind attributes. And they have two synchros, so why not just bring out the Great Fly? And then at one point you can bring these out from the grave, extra deck. So you have room to bring them out. And at the same time, since you use wind monsters, this powers your FA monsters even more, except for Dark Dragster. So I'm gonna be using Great Fly. Maybe not three of them. I might move it down because I still need to play with the extra deck. This is just how I have it for now. And the side deck so far, the other Dark Dragster, Ties of the Brethren, I might remove this one. I haven't done Dead Heat just in case. Uh, so the reason why I have this here is I try to put this in the main deck because it's all machines and special summoning. I was never able to draw it, so I'm just gonna put it in the in the side just for now. I have two other fields here, and I have Space Dragster just for the fact that one, it's a tuner, and two, it's a racing thing, so it would make sense. um, but yeah, that is pretty much the discussion video for me. I'm actually really enjoying FAs. Hopefully, I get to use them more and like kind of maybe find a way to update the deck a little bit more. If it doesn't really work out like this, then um, in a separate video, I'm gonna put two duels that I had with Eric Blade against heroes, since he loves his heroes, and he's actually made a special ban list for us sometimes to use. So you may see him use cards that you're not allowed to use, like Disc Commander, Stratos, just to name two of them, and they were like really really good duels. So that is it for me, and I will see you hopefully in another discussion video when something that has my attention that comes out, or if I just want to talk about something. Maybe Crystal Beast will be one of them. But until next time, take care, everybody.